I've been watching the Stanley Cup Finals. I'm sure you have as well. As the series shifted back to Washington, I couldn't help myself. This vivid memory, there were two, of the Canucks' lone game in Washington. And, of course, you were there on that trip. That's where we lost our luggage, the flight cancellation and everything. We don't need to revisit that. But I've sort of made peace with Washington as a city. I look forward to going back there next year. But in that game, and I'm sure you remember when the net tipped over and Del Zotto was holding up the net, and Goodbranson, I think he was watching Del Zotto, and Carlson ended up scoring.
Yeah.
Like, that was kind of peak Canuck right there. Dowd gets pushed off the puck behind the net by Backstrom. The net topples over, and, MBZ to the rescue to save his goaltender. So that was one. The other was, as I've watched the Capitals ramp things up here, remember the second period that night? Like, that might have been the most one-sided period the Canucks were involved in. Like, it was comical. Tragic.
They never looked as helpless as they did in that run.
And didn't I think Goodbranson ended up throwing a puck in the net at one point, too? The pass to Kuznetsov that he ended up batting in the net.
Yeah.
Like, it was... And I remember after the game, too, that's what, like, Del Zotto got the lowest point of his career. Like, he was sitting in his stall, and... I remember I had asked, like, this isn't what you signed up for, as a free agent. And he kind of, without even looking up, kind of went into, this is like the lowest point of my career. Those are my memories.
Got to play every game.
Those are my memories, though, of the Canucks as I was watching. Like, I'm surprised. I've been betting against Vegas every step of the way. And Vegas made Winnipeg look ordinary. As much as we both like the Winnipeg Jets,
you bet against Vegas every step of the way.
I thought at some point
you were there. You know how hard it is to win there.
I know, but I just thought eventually
they couldn't even fucking fit Leipsic into their lineup.
Imagine, like, I thought about him too a couple of times along the way. Like,
we had that Leipsic theory from
Leipsic. They traded one player away. The Vegas Knights did, right?
Yeah.
Like, they traded all those picks for Tatar, but really they traded one player away. Like.
Well, they brought in Tatar and dumped Leipsic.
Yeah, I'm saying
and that's
but
exactly what they
Leipzig's
did.
the one guy that they traded away. Like, I feel for it. Like, he whether he was going to be a black ace or playing, like, he was going to be a part of this run. In his mind, I'm sure he was thinking he was going to get a chance to compete. He wouldn't know then that they were going to go to the Stanley Cup final.
It was a weird trade. Like, to me, and I don't know this, and Leipzig didn't tell me this, but it definitely read like he had said, like, I need to play. Like, I'm at a point in my career where I need to play games. And if I'm not going to play here, nothing against this team or this franchise and whatever, but I need to get somewhere where I can play some games. Like, that's how it looked to me. And certainly he talked about, how important that playing time was for him when he got to Vancouver. And, he definitely showed signs that there's more in him than what we had seen. But, it's probably disappointing he's not part of a team that's in the Stanley Cup final, but how frustrating would that be? Like, he wouldn't be playing.
Right. So
Tatar can barely get in the lineup.
Yeah.
And he has barely got in over the course of this playoff. So he wasn't going to play. So being a black ace, like, is that fulfilling? I'm not sure. But I do know that for sure he's at a stage in his career where he needs minutes. He needs ice time. And I could totally see him going to Vegas. Because it is a weird trade, right? They didn't need home.
Right.
Like, what the hell are they going to do?
Home's not even around. Like,
right.
They parked him in the minors, probably never to be seen again.
Yeah. So they kind of just, it was like,
Leipzig,
it reads like, looking back at it, it reads like Vegas doing him a solid, finding him an organization that had a ton of injuries, needed a player just to play games down the stretch.
And Travis had some familiarity with
Travis had familiarity, and there was also the potential, like, he'll be in the conversation to be, on the left side in one of the top 6 roles of this coming season. Like, there is no other team in the league that he's going to have the opportunity that he's going to have in Vancouver. And I think that he's a good player. Like, he has the potential to be a good player, for sure. Like, it's in him to be a good player. And I think back then I remember talking to you going, like, look, like, this guy, just walked into the Canucks and he's looking. There were games where he was one of their best players, and Vegas couldn't even find a spot for him on their fourth line.
You look at the construct of that Vegas team, and knowing the fan base here in Vancouver, like, the Canucks knew they were going to lose a player. They lost Lucas Spiza, and good for Spiza. He's had a nice run. He got back in the lineup. Good guy. Brought a lot of the heat on himself with his performance here in Vancouver.
Well,
but the Canucks lost Lucas Pisa. They were going to lose a player in expansion. Right. But imagine if they had been one of those organizations that made a side deal and lost two pieces that have helped. And you've made your point clear about Dale Talon. Chuck Fletcher lost his job in Minnesota, and I'm not saying it because of Tuck and Holla, but can you imagine this fan base would have lost its shit this year if two members of the Canucks had gone to Vegas and played key roles there?
No, I think that the Vegas shenanigans with Fletcher definitely helped. I mean, that greased the skids for him losing his job. I think that, they were going crazy trying to protect Dumba. There was another avenue. They could have included Dumba as one of their three. I think it was Brodin that they could have left unprotected. There were better ways for them to handle it. To lose a guy like Tuck has been one of their best players in this series. In the 4 games, he's got 12 shots on net. I think the only guy that has more is Marchessault with 20. He was in the same draft as Virtanen. And I remember back then, a lot of
top 20 pick, big stud, dude, he's a big dude.
He was in the conversation.
Yeah.
He may be a better power forward than Virtanen. He may be a better power forward than Ritchie. In those mock drafts, some people had Tuck ahead of those guys. So they lost. They ended up losing 2, and they didn't really know everything that they had in Holla. But I think we knew that he could be consistently a bottom 6 forward that could get you 15 goals a season. I think we knew he was good.
Right, but nobody saw 29 coming.
No.
And he has reverted in the last 2 rounds of the playoffs to a guy who looks more like a bottom 6 forward or better suited to a bottom 6 role. That's one of the reasons.
But we knew that he could be a quality bottom 6 guy, so they end up losing 2 key components to protect a defenseman who they could have protected in another way. So I do think that it helped cost Fletcher his job.